Marvel Rivals is the game that we deserve. It's proof that respecting players' time and money still matters. While Blizzard's Overwatch 2 trickles out overpriced skins and calls it content, Marvel Rivals is adding 4 new characters in Season 1, more than Overwatch 2 has ever seen in a single year. 3 new maps and a $10 battle pass that actually feels premium. Imagine pitching 10 skins for $10 to Blizzard's management. They'd go into cardiac arrest and then have their goons toss you out a window. But the message from NetEase is clear to all other live service games. Marvel Rivals is here to compete, and Overwatch is stuck on the sidelines desperately trying to remember what made it special in the first place. This isn't just disappointing, it's downright embarrassing. But let's dive into this. Marvel Rivals released in December as a normal cadence of almost every single game that has ever released. It has a massive drop-off of players. Yet Marvel Rivals has retained 93% of its player base in 1 month and has actually gone past those numbers with Season 1's launch. So what does that tell you? What does that tell you about live service games when all other companies are failing, yet NetEase is succeeding? Is it because they are releasing skins at appropriate prices and then also giving premium skins away? Is it because from a lamest view, they've taken Overwatch and they just improved the formula? I would say yes to a certain extent. That's game design. If you guys don't know, my background is 15 years in AAA gaming, and that truly is how game design works. You take something familiar and you put it in a blender and you come out with something new. They're not afraid to be weird and quirky and have some crazy characters like Mr. Fantastic, which is the goofiest character you've ever seen. And I feel Blizzard would be terrified to try something like this. So I think it really comes down to who's going to take more risks. But granted, you can have the argument that Marvel Rivals has so many characters already designed and established with different variations and multiverses and all this content that they can take that easily can convert into the game. But here's the thing that you're not thinking about. How do you make those kits fun? How do you balance that within a game design? That is the true brilliance of Marvel Rivals, is that it actually figured out ways to make these characters to feel close enough to their comic counterparts, but yet kind of feel a little bit different, a little bit familiar, just like Hulk and Diva, a little bit of the same mechanics, right? To look at this number is unheard of. That Marvel Rivals retained 93% of its player base and now has surpassed that is mind-blowing. Right now, as of this recording, it is at 500,000 people playing this game, with 2 days ago hitting almost 650,000 players just on Steam. Not on console, not on the Epic launcher, just on Steam. But then you look at this, and you have the opposite end of the spectrum, which is Destiny 2. So we go from retaining 90% of your player base to losing 90% of your player base. And these aren't one-to-one. These do not share a lot of commonalities in terms of looter shooter and a hero shooter. Very different demographics play these types of games. But what it comes down to is your content pipelines and how much you're willing to take risks. And I would argue that Destiny 2 has not taken too many risks in a long time. They very finally tweak their formula. They reskin a bunch of guns, they retire guns, they bring them back, but in general, it's the same game. If you played a couple years ago versus now, it's the same game, but the formula really hasn't changed. Marvel Rivals adding 4 characters in 1 season, and granted, we only have 2 of them right now. We're getting 2 later on in the season. Overwatch has never had that. Okay, I'll stop there. Overwatch 2 has never had that. Overwatch 2 last year released 3 characters in a year, yet we're gonna get 4 in Marvel Rivals in a 3-month span. Just let that sink in at how fast, how massive their pipeline has to be and how prepared they were to make this a success. Blizzard, in all accounts, has failed. For example, Venture was released, a character that wasn't well received, to be honest, has no premium skins. And guess what? Guess who has premium skins day 1? Mr. Fantastic has a premium skin and Invisible Woman. Granted, I know which one I'd be picking, but still, it shows you that they are methodical in their actual go-to-market plan, which frankly, Overwatch has failed from the start. They don't know what they're doing. They made a PvE mode, they killed it, they had to retool the whole game to a PvP, which really wasn't the original concept of Overwatch 2. And granted, there's a whole level of discussion about executive producers and creative directors and the C-level that mandate prefer profit over fun. But yet, and hand in hand, when you have a fun game that people enjoy, money comes in, money flows in. And I think that this is frankly a wake-up call to Blizzard. I feel like Blizzard is a fantastic example of resting on your laurels. They rest on their laurels that you get 1 or 2 heroes, maybe 3 a year, maximum, because that's a lot of work, guys. And it is, to be honest, it really is. It is so much work to make a new character, have it feel unique, and to balance it with the current meta without terribly destroying it. It is a lot of game design work, and it's a lot of testing, and a lot of it is feeling. It's not mathematical, it's feeling. And then you also have to consider the skill level of the character in terms of, is it heavy mechanical, is it an auto aim, like who is it aimed for? And if we look back at Marvel Rivals right now, pretty soon they're gonna rival the amount of characters that Overwatch 2 has, which is crazy to think about, that a brand new game is gonna have almost as many characters as a game as old as Overwatch. Like, just imagine this. Overwatch was released on May 24th, 2016, 9 years ago almost now. And Marvel Rivals is going to have almost the same amount of characters now. If that doesn't tell you that NetEase is here to compete, and competition is a good thing. Competition is an amazing thing that might actually force Blizzard to get off their ass and retool how they think about character design, how they think about game design, and their pipelines to actually make these characters. If Microsoft doesn't gut them completely, you know, there is a factor of how much money are they investing in this game. That is the end-all be-all of how much money are they throwing at this versus the profit margins and payoff. So there's so much at play, but the one thing I really do want to talk about, and I want to not stop digging into Blizzard and their just inadequacies, because we could talk about that for a couple hours. I think you're starting to see the cracks in the player base who was already very upset. It was not a mistake that Overwatch 2 magically brought back 6v6 a month before Marvel Rivals came out. That's not a mistake. That is a strategic marketing decision to try to curry favor with their current player base, who frankly they treat like garbage. Hey, $50 a skin. Have fun. You'll like it. Hey, this recolor, that's $20. I'm sorry, you know, that's just that. Then the breaks, that's how much it costs. It didn't really just take us 5 minutes to go and change the hue of something. And I think people are becoming a little bit wiser about that. And I think this comes down also when we talk about skins is the silhouette breaks of characters. If you break a silhouette of a character too much or change it too much from a quick glance, you will not understand what character that is, which is actually one of the philosophies that most of these games have, and it goes all the way back to TF2. So there are design constraints, but I feel like Blizzard has been in their own way for a very long time by not having the proper pipelines and, frankly, not actually giving you your bang for your buck when it comes to the season pass. They are so focused on milking you for those legendaries, and now there's the mythic tokens, and now there's mythic weapons. And it's like, that should just be a skin. So you have to ask yourself, like, when is enough enough? And I think that a lot of people were dismissing Marvel Rivals when it first came out because they're like, oh, it's a clone, it's not gonna do well. But people that actually played it, people that I saw what was happening, they were like, oh, there's something here. And I think one of the things that we can look at here that very much kind of quantifies interest, and I would say that Twitch is not the end-all be-all when it comes to general interest, but it is a barometer check. It is a high-level check on how something is doing from a general interest. And when you look at it, Marvel Rivals was the 5th most watched game on Twitch in December, decimated Overwatch 2, which is its closest competitor. Overwatch 2 suffered more than most, as the rival hero shooter's peak Twitch viewership plummeted from 125,000 to 64,000 between November and December. On the other hand, Marvel Rivals' peak viewership on December was 275K. More than double the top viewership of Overwatch. And I think what that tells you, frankly, is that people are tired. They're tired of the same formula. They're tired of just being treated as an ATM and not really getting the value that they feel they deserve. And I say that rightly you do deserve. So until these companies actually start waking up and understanding that they have to give more, because frankly, companies will charge as much as humanly possible for a skin. It's whatever they can get away with. Yet when a company comes in and says, hey, you know what? We're going to give you 10 premium, I would say 8 premium skins for $10, that's a steal compared to everything else. That's a steal compared to Fortnite, Destiny 2, Overwatch, you name it. And Overwatch 2 players aren't. They're really not happy after seeing how much their main competitor is offering versus what they're getting. It makes you wonder, you're like, why am I playing this game that I've invested almost a decade of my life to? They're like, am I being taken advantage of? And the short answer is yes. Yeah, you are. But hopefully, with competition, Blizzard will finally act and actually implement anything, really anything, to curry favor. Because frankly, what they've done with the OWL skins is not it. This is more of the same of low effort trash. It's just recolor after recolor. And they're like, hey, pay us money. That is, I feel like those times are gone. This is a massive wake-up call, I feel like, to the industry that they actually have to put effort again. The whole industry has been at that point where they just recycle and reuse and hope you don't notice. And it's insultive. It really is. It's really insultive. But I feel like this tweet actually just summarizes kind of the overall feelings of the Overwatch 2 community at this point, of just not Marvel Rivals adding the same amount of characters in one season that Overwatch adds over a span of a year. And I don't think that they're going to slow down. There are so many characters that have been data mined that most likely they're just going to be drip feeding every single season. There was over 15 characters that have not been released that are in the code base right now. Overwatch could only dream of that. And again, you're probably going to go in the comments and be like, yo, it takes time to make a new character, and yo, it takes time for game design. But my counterpoint to that would be, a lot of these characters, there is a core base around them, right? Wolverine, Spider-Man. But to be able to make them fun, and to be able to actually make them work in this game, is probably where they're spending most of their time. So while Blizzard has to focus on character design to game design to balance, a lot of that can be thought of ahead of time, where Rivals has to work on it the opposite way. They already have the designs, they just need to make it into their own style and tweak a couple things. But that game design from characters who are massively overpowered, how do you make that fun? How do you make that interesting? So I think every game company has their own trials and tribulations they have to face and they have to overcome. But I would not diminish the fact that Rivals has to reshape all of these characters to be interesting. But what's interesting about this article is, and I think this is more of a just hopium at this point, but what they say is, while Overwatch 2 is seeing dwindling player numbers since the release of Marvel Rivals, they'll later may become the top hero shooter, and I think it will. But as Blizzard continues to update Overwatch 2, the hero schedule may be improved to match Marvel Rivals. I don't think that's actually possible. Unless they had a massive cash infusion, is this even remotely possible for them? Because I feel like most of these writers do not understand the dev cycle and the investment in the time and the money that it takes to build out a pipeline. Or the Blizzard's going to have to utilize a ton of vendors to the point where they're just outsourcing most of their work. But I feel like as we've talked about this, I really want to circle back and kind of go to the main point of why we're talking about this. It's that a company that actually is here to compete and give you what you feel is worth the money will massively succeed in a world where they treat you as an ATM. And I think it's such a novel concept, but these companies don't understand it. It doesn't compute to them to not milk as much money as humanly possible with how much their prices are increasing from production costs, salaries, overhead, bonuses, all of these things. It's insanely hard for them to quantify, and I get that part. But they're going to price themselves into irrelevancy, where people are going to want to go to those games that are actually giving you those values. And you feel like you don't mind spending money because they respect you as a consumer. But let's be honest, I am not a Blizzard fan, nor am I really a NetEase fan until Marvel Rivals came out. NetEase was synonymous with overpriced content, milking the crap out of you, but something switched. But at the end of the day, for a consumer perspective, competition is good. We have so many games that are forever games now that live on and milk you forever. Companies love those live service games. Everyone wants to do a live service game, but few are going to succeed. And there's going to be more failures than there are successes. And granted, you can try to quantify things of ugly character design from Concord compared to everyone is ultra sexy, even the Venom cake in Marvel Rivals, and that has some factor to it. Sex appeal only goes so far. You can only goon on a character for so long. If the game design itself sucked, people would not stay. And that's why you see people leaving Destiny 2. The game design has not changed. And will Marvel Rivals eventually have that problem? Probably, as every game does. But for right now, Rivals is the new. They've taken something old and put something new, and they kind of put it together in a blender, and voila, here's this new baby. But I think they're doing the right things. But I do hope that these companies rise to the challenge, or they're gonna perish. A lot of your beloved companies, I'll pick on Bethesda, are not the same that they were in their golden age. We're gonna see new names that we were looking down on before that actually do understand the market, understand what people want, and they will succeed. But I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. But that's going to be it, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the yaps. I do hope that you guys take from this video and understand what's really happening right now in this field and what's happening and why it's happening. And there's a lot of factors like we talked about, from a predominantly Chinese workforce versus a Western workforce and the cost labor. There's a lot of factors that make a game. But at the end of the day, the consumer doesn't really care about that. That's kind of the company's problem to solve. What the consumer cares about is getting the best bang for their buck, or just feeling respected. And that's really what it comes down to. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. I've done enough yapping. Hopefully you've taken something from this, and granted, I know there's a lot that we've talked about and kind of poked at, but hopefully you understand why Rivals, in my opinion, is succeeding, because they are respecting you as a consumer rather than treating you like an ATM. The question I have for you is, do you think that Rivals will overtake Overwatch? Overwatch is almost going to be a decade old at this point, Overwatch 1. That's crazy to think about, that a game has lasted that long, but still, I'm starting to see the cracks. I'm starting to see the people be very upset. And I don't feel that Blizzard is equipped to solve those issues. And it could be from their hands being tied, it could be that they don't care. We don't know.